What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're taking a look at Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty DLC here on the Steam Deck. This is SteamOS 3.5 with 4 GB of VRAM, and I do have Cryoutilities active in this video, so I'm kind of giving myself the best case scenario, which is probably good because performance for Dogtown and the new area here of Night City certainly does vary a lot depending on where you're at. So let's take a look at what we have here for Phantom Liberty. As far as our settings go, we will be windowed borderless 720p with no VSync for the entire video. The two settings we're going to use is the Steam Deck preset left alone, just to give you guys an idea of what that's doing. That's a lot of high settings in there. And then we're also going to use this low custom here with Intel XeSS balanced, and a few changes down here to help with image quality, but not too much. It's a combination of low medium. You can take a look at that and try it out if you want to. Now, I did want to use the benchmark for just a second here to show you that there is, of course, a big difference in FPS between FSR2 and Intel XeSS. It doesn't give you as much of a boost as FSR2 does, and that's typical in games, but image quality is much better, and I want you to be able to see a little bit of that right here. There's a market area as well inside of the new city that runs really rough, and there's only so much help that either FSR or Intel XeSS can do here. Even the Steam Deck preset is close to low, although a little bit lower in the 20s there. So it really depends on where you're at and how bottlenecked the system is. As far as FSR2 and Intel, though, if you look at those trees out here and the coloring and the image quality, Intel just destroys FSR2. It doesn't get as much FPS boost and it dips worse, but the image quality is a lot better. Now over on the Steam Deck preset, I did go ahead and do the 2 just to show you here, and man, that Intel XeSS looks so much better. However, I will leave it at FSR2 for the rest of the Steam Deck presets because that's what the preset has. So let's continue on here and get to the rest of the video so we can see some more performance. And as you move around the city, again, performance is going to vary a lot. So I'm going to show you some different scenarios with driving and combat. But the first thing I do want to mention as well is weather effects, and especially time of day, are really going to affect you. As we settle into like 44, 45 FPS right here, if I switch our time of day over to night, we'll lose up to 5 FPS. And I've noticed that's the case in Cyberpunk anyway, but I really want to make it known again in this video. So if you're adjusting your settings, you might want to sit there and skip time of day and play around a little bit. If I go to the Steam Deck preset here and do the same thing, we're not much lower than low, actually, just sitting still here in this particular area. But again, if I switch this over to nighttime here, we'll lose that 4 to 5 FPS in general. And it's just something to keep in mind when you're tweaking your settings and working on things, that's what you'll see, and that holds true throughout Dogtown. Now, when it comes to driving, this is so sporadic. It just depends on where you're at. Dogtown is a very cluttered and full and busy and fun area to explore and play in, but that makes some of these areas just very difficult to run. And I'm hoping there's some patches and optimizations that can come along here to help this, because when the CPU gets bound up like this and we're bottlenecked, it causes us those frame time issues. You see our lines start going crazy here, we lose FPS. When it catches up, even the Steam Deck preset can hold above 30 FPS. If we switch over here to low, it doesn't help us a lot because, again, we've got that CPU bottleneck and it's not the GPU side of things holding us back here. So it is a good bit of a mess, and that's whether I'm on low, high, Steam Deck settings or whatever, and that's just going to be the case. So I just wanted to point that out. It really depends on where you're at. Now, if you cap the game to 30, that will help you a little bit because it gives you that little bit of overhead when you are over 30, but it's not going to stop all of those dips and issues you have, but it can mitigate it some depending on what settings you're going with and where you're at in Dogtown and that type of thing. And really, I've gotten in the 20s, 25, 28 FPS in areas driving around, all the way up to in the 40s, which we'll switch over to here. I'll go to a less populated, less busy area of Dogtown. I can easily drive around in the upper 30s and into the 40s, and frame times will stay smooth and all that kind of stuff here, regardless if I'm on Steam Deck or low custom settings. So again, it depends on if you're driving, if you're in combat, time of day, weather effects, and especially where are you in Dogtown. So let's take a closer look at that. Let's move over to some combat. Now, this area was interesting for me because this was particularly hard to run, and this is on low, our low custom here with Intel XeSS, and it was a little rough to try to aim and play here. I wanted to cause some havoc. I wanted a lot of NPCs shooting at me. I want to take damage. I want effects to see what would happen, and we didn't dip into the 20s, fortunately, although the frame times were a mess, and the CPU was definitely the issue here, and really holding our higher frame rate and smoothing this out a bit. So this was interesting, and what I wanted to do was take this exact same fight and switch me over to the Steam Deck preset, which really raises a lot of those settings up and goes to FSR2. And if I do that, it's very similar performance, which is what we saw driving as well. When the system is just hit this hard, there's only so much those settings really mean to us, although we do go down into the 20s here with the Steam Deck preset because of course it does have some more trouble. But I just want to point this out. It just so depends on where you're at in Dogtown here. And let me highlight that. We're going to move to another area of combat where you'll see much better performance. So this area out here, we're still on the Steam Deck preset, and we'll do both that and low here like I just did in the other spot. So let's go ahead and take a look at combat in this area because it is a lot different. Sticking with this Steam Deck preset here, you'll see that even though we have a few dips, we do stay a bit higher on our FPS in this particular area, even though I still have a ton of NPCs and combat going on right here. And also, we just get a much better frame time and frame pacing here, and it just feels better to play. And that's still with a ton happening in this area. This just is really going to depend on where you're at in Dogtown and time of day and weather effects and NPCs and all of that. Switching over to low, we see the type of increase that I would expect to see if things are running well and not too bottlenecked or capped, where we do increase FPS yet again here. Frame times stay pretty good, and gameplay felt pretty good as well. I didn't really mind this near as much as that previous area that we were engaged in combat and trying to get through there. So I'm just trying to hit on the point that you might even see different videos out there that show different performance and vary because of the areas they choose to test in. So just in my findings, I'm finding out that I can travel all over Dogtown and get different performance depending on where I'm at. Now, we'll jump in the car, we'll drive around, I'll show you a little bit more performance as we kind of run around here and end out the video. But I do think there's room for improvement here when it comes to patches and stuff, because I do see so many areas that run better. I feel like even though we are hitting the resources of the Steam Deck really hard, we're maxing out that CPU when we have these issues, that maybe there is some room for fixing there. Because even outside Dogtown and Night City, even when I get really busy, I don't usually get performance quite that bad. And as I jump out of the car and I go into combat in this area as well, just as another example, this felt great and this felt really clean, and I didn't have any trouble with that. Of course, as soon as I jump in the vehicle and take off and get away from this spot and get more going on, that's when we're going to start to drop again. So again, just a point that I want to make, that you really want to go to different areas of Dogtown and do different times of day and really adjust your settings to get the exact experience and performance that you want to get at a Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty on your Steam Deck. Certainly capping at 30 FPS can help, and you can do that if you want to. I didn't want to show too much capped in the video because I wanted to show the full performance we were getting. 40 FPS cap really isn't going to work most of the time, but if you want to go with a 30, you can keep things a bit cleaner and more stable for you. But anyways, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully this gave you a good idea of the kind of performance you might get with Phantom Liberty on your Steam Deck. I think there's room for improvement. I think we'll see some patches in the future that help some of this, but when it comes down to it, we may also just be hitting that hardware limit when it comes to it. All right, guys, thanks a lot for coming and check out the video. As always, I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.